Hey folks, this is Justin at Metcalf Meals at Chestnut Mountain Farm. I wanted to tell you about something else that I didn't include on my sweet sorghum video. If you've not watched that yet, you need to check it out. But I wanted to share something with you that I learned a couple years ago from a friend of mine, Chelsea Askew. Now here is the Hickory King corn, and you'll notice there's a lane down through here that's about 10 feet wide where there's nothing growing, except maybe a few weeds. The next crop over here is the sorghum. Now what I'm going to do is sow buckwheat down this whole lane from corn to cane. Sow that in buckwheat at the proper time so that when that buckwheat blooms, what it does, it attracts predator bugs of the sugarcane aphid. So when the buckwheat comes up, it blooms, it'll be snow white, beautiful. Honeybees will be all over it. You'll be attracting those predator bugs to help control your sugarcane aphids when they come in to steal your sugar. And if you want to walk over here with me, I'll show you. We've got 3 successions of sorghum here, and I've got, so we'll start over at the Hickory King corn, then a buckwheat strip, then 4 rows of sorghum cane, then another buckwheat strip, then 4 more rows of sorghum cane, then another buckwheat strip, then 4 more rows of sorghum cane, and then I'll have a strip of buckwheat on the outside. So should be plenty of good stuff to attract the predator bugs and feed the honeybees, which in turn everything feeds us. So it's everything working together. So like I was saying, the sugarcane aphid, which has not always been a problem, it's kind of a new pest as far as sorghum cane goes. You know, all the years my family grew sorghum cane, they never had the problem of the sugarcane aphid, which really you didn't have a problem with your sorghum cane. But now it's different. As I talked about on my sweet sorghum cultivation video, I'll come in and fog with neem oil to help control those aphids, as well as the predator bug attractive crop of the buckwheat. I was informed by my buddy Billy over at Perma Pasture Farm that this is actually permaculture, and I didn't really think about how all that goes together until he enlightened me. But this buckwheat will be a crop in itself. So you plant the buckwheat to bring in the predator bugs to help control the sugarcane aphid, and also the honeybees. You know, they're gonna love that buckwheat and work it until the blooms are gone. But then this year I'm gonna try harvesting the buckwheat, and that's a lot of grain. It's a kind of a precious grain, and there's gonna be a whole mess of involvement to get that stuff harvested and processed to where it can be used in some type of maybe baking application. Yeah, I don't really know all the possibilities of the buckwheat, but I'm looking forward to finding out. And at first I'm just looking forward to getting it all processed and, you know, in a place where it can dry down and get ready to be milled. So we're talking about the buckwheat being an attractive crop for the predator bugs of the sugarcane aphid. You know, folks, all my life I've been around people growing sorghum cane and been a part of helping in the process and making sorghum syrup, but it's just always been just one crop, just the sorghum cane, nothing else. Here you've got the sorghum cane, you've got the buckwheat, which is going to provide a home for, you know, these predator bugs to help protect your sorghum crop. The honeybees are coming in, working the blooms of the buckwheat. They love it. It's not really new this year. We've done it in a couple years past, but the sorghum, the seed head on top of that, is going to be harvested for seed as well as harvested for the grain. Now there is a sorghum grain that people grow. It's not sweet sorghum cane though. I don't know of anybody else that harvests the sorghum grain off of the sweet sorghum plant to use as a grain to be milled or used in baking or anything like that. But that's what we're doing. So not only here do you have just sorghum syrup out of this crop, but you have the grain off of that, as well as if you harvest the buckwheat that's 2 types of grain, and everything's working together. The buckwheat, it's going to be enriching your soil, as well as all the fodder off this cane. It goes back to the ground. All I'm lacking here this year, and I just didn't get it done, is sowing crimson clover the last time I cultivate in between the sorghum rows. So if you do that, I mean, you got a system here. And if you think about it, I mean, out in nature, there's nothing pretty much that's just growing by itself unless it's some kind of invasive. Everything works together, and that's, you know, that's what we're trying to do. And in the farming and things we do, everything's going to work better if it's diverse. So putting the buckwheat in between the sorghum cane, you want to time that. The buckwheat's about 45 days till it starts blooming. So you want to time that to where when the sugar starts rising in your sorghum cane, the buckwheat starts blooming. Because that's when it's going to start, or maybe even a little before that time, to give, you know, for it to attract your predator bugs in to help control those aphids. So you try to do your best on the timing. Sometimes you're a little off, sometimes you hit it just right. It just depends, but as long as you're early, that's always better than the bloom being late. So, you know, you can, if you're off guessing, try to be early, not late on your buckwheat blooms. All right, folks, we talked about how the buckwheat is going to be interwoven into the sorghum cane to help benefit it. And we talked about the timing on your buckwheat versus when the sorghum cane, the sugar is going to be coming up, and you need that buckwheat to be blooming, you know, to help protect your sorghum cane. You know, if you think about it, because the sugar cane aphid did make it this far north, it created a need for the buckwheat to go in there, which adds a whole another level of diversity and, you know, benefits. It's like a problem has created a better system and a way of thinking. Folks, if you grow sorghum or if you plan to grow sorghum, I hope this video's helped you. And I look forward to making sorghum syrup with you this fall right here on my channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video if you will. And this is Justin from Metcalf Mills, reminding you to just be you, because you can't make that up. See you next time.